Okay, in this video you're going to learn how to do a single point track. So you could pretend that's a smartphone or something, and wherever it moves, the text will go with it. So a couple things, you could turn that text object into a 3D layer as well, so it still stays with it. And as you get more advanced, we might go over the Alaska Airlines kind of screen idea where you could animate like a smartphone screen that also. Okay, so first things first. I'm just going to make a new composition with this video clip, and I'm going to drag that onto the composition panel. And then in our side, let's just track the point. And the tracker, it goes off the screen, right? It leaves the screen. So I'm going to start kind of on an easier point for the computer to track, and then I'll go and clean up some of the tracks. So I'm going to say track motion. And in this case, I don't care about the rotation. I just care about the position. And I'm going to increase. So this first area, I'm going to increase the picture size that the computer is looking for, and then I'll increase the search radius. So now I'll hit play, and I'll just kind of watch it and make sure. I'll hit stop as soon as I see any mistakes. There's a little jitteriness to it, but it's more or less staying on that unicorn's snout. Okay, so I kind of knew a mistake was coming up. So now I'm going to hit page up to go back a frame, page up. So it should be right about on the chin, I guess. And as you go through frame by frame, you can click kind of in that center box, and let's just now, instead of hitting the play button, we'll click the analyze one frame forward. And so it's off a little bit. And so this is a way that you can just kind of help your tracker, because one, the picture's moving too fast, so you could also increase the search radius. Let's see if that helps. So that seemed to help. But it's still getting slightly off. It doesn't have to be exact because it's moving so fast, but this will help it. I'm just going to finish. So we're almost to the end, and I try to track forward and it won't go, so then you can just drag the tracker to the edge, but the tracker can't really go off the screen. So let's go backwards to see where the tracking started. So I'll just hit, so here it is. I can tell this is where it's starting because there's a little plus, so it's stuck, and then you'll see the box start moving. So I'll go to this frame, and I'll just say, I'll play it backwards, and it's staying pretty good. I'm going to keep going. I'm just kind of pausing it along the way to make sure it's keeping up with it. It's looking good. I'm just clicking play and then stop, just to make sure it doesn't get, oh, okay, so now it got lost. So right here, I'll drag that about. Yeah. And I'm just hitting analyze frame backwards now, just helping it along. I think we're almost there. Okay, so now let's create a null object. And I'm just going to label it track or tracker. Click your clip again, and your tracker information comes up. Let's just make sure our target, if you click edit target, make sure it's set to the tracker null, and then I'm going to hit apply. And what happens is now there's a bunch of keyframed properties on that null object, this like little square here. So now it's as simple as bringing in some text that says that. I'm going to go to my arrow tool and just move it around. I'm just going to scale it. You could change the font size, and maybe I'll move it over to about here. And then parent that text to the null. And I'm going to make my resolution half, or quarter. So then as the null moves, the text moves. Yep, and I'll just scan through, and then as the null goes away, the text goes away. Add that motion blur on the yes layer, the text layer, and in the composition itself, and then it starts looking like that. So to make it a 3D layer, click this little checkbox, and if you don't see these layers, you have to toggle your switches and modes, which you can do down here, or by pushing F4. If you're on a Mac, you might have to find the FN button and then hit F4. So turn on your 3D layer. If you wanted it to like rotate, notice how it's rotating around this corner origin point. So if you want to change that, select your layer, go to this pan behind tool, and then just move your origin to the center. And then, so you could create a keyframe on the Y rotation, and then rotate it. You could just type in I want it to rotate 4 times if you click that first box. So now it should so it's following along. So one little problem with, so this is a 2D track, but we have a 3D layer. So the only way, you can't push this back in Z space, because if you want to make it look like it's farther away or closer, you would have to scale it. If you push it forward or back in Z space, it will lose that accuracy with the tracker. And it's actually being accurate. It's just that, let's say this null object is moving 1 foot to the left. Well, if we push this yes text back really far in Z space, that 1 foot only looks like that much. So it's still moving the same 1 foot, but it's so far away, 1 foot doesn't look as far. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, and then the way I did the screen animation, I'm not going to go into detail on this video, but let me just hide this yes layer and bring in this screen animation layer. And if I double click on this screen animation, it's its own composition, and I just animated a screen, and it's relatively transparent, as you can see. But like, you can animate, you can make a composition and animate some motion graphics elements, stuff like we had been doing earlier in class. And then if I go to this, let's see, so here's my screen animation, right? So if I turn the 3D layer on and parent it to that yes, or to that tracker, I'm just going to scale this down a bit, and I'm going to bring up my rotation properties, and I'll rotate the orientation Y and then the orientation X, and then I'll just move it here. So, and then I'll just adjust the timing, so when my finger touches, I might move it up some. Here we have a swipe. So yeah, that's how I did that.